tough. Okay, well, so this is a question, especially for both of you, being that you wear many hats in entertainment, from writing, so forth. Is everyone wants to know, where do you get your inspiration? Where is the fountain in which you get that from?
The news. Seriously, so I have Google alerts on for like weird things that kind of pop up, like unexplained and different types of horrors and whatnot. But yeah, usually you'll just read. I'll also read different obituaries, and it sounds very morbid, but I'll read those as well. And just there's all these random ways and horrible ways that people die and people disappear and these things happen, and you hear about those. And then I have a Google Drive, and then we're just constantly placing in all these different ideas, like this thing happened at this one place, and the next thing you know, we take 3 or 4 and we combine them, turn them into something. But like one was I had heard a story of a woman during the town of Salem who tried to escape, and most people were stoned and stuff during that time. The women who they accused of being witches, and one escaped the town, and the descendant of Cotton Mather, who's like literally wrote the book on how to hunt witches. Someone found her, and again, I don't know if this is true. This is just what the internet was or whatever. But I read about it, and just reading a news story about what was happening in Salem and that area now, and how they're trying to kind of change the narrative and all this, and some of the rumors. And I read that, and it was about this woman who escaped, and then she was pregnant. She just wanted to have her child so that she would not be killed, and her child, could live on. And then he found her in this other small town in Belyeu State. And I was like, that is incredible. I was like, that is the most horrifying thing I've ever heard. So I rewrote with a movie called The Pale Door, and I wrote a whole idea around that, which was I had another idea of a Western, and of like, well, what causes hate? It's like hate creates more hate, So maybe whether or not, again, this is my skepticism when it comes to the play. It's like, well, there's no real witches, but maybe this hatred created the first witches, and that moment got them to come together to delve into dark arts or whatever to then create this couple of witches. And that's, so it's like that interested me, and then I went from there. But if I had not been researching stories and looking for all these different things and having all these Google alerts and all that, I never would have found that. I never would have inspired what I was trying to write. And yeah, we're always looking after the news. It's great. It's great.
Bill, by the way, that's on Shudder, and you should check it out. It's great, and it's really beautiful too, as well as really scary. I find my inspiration from pretty much just everything. Like I carry around my little notebook and my phone, and I'm often like, okay, sketching something. I mean, it's kind of something like what you said, Stephen, of like part of our job, and I guess all 4 of us. But I think there's this weird thing, like, I mean this in a metaphorical and a real way, that most of us, there's thoughts that we don't want to think about, and we say like, oh, I just got to get that thought out of my head. My job is to like, oh, I got to keep that thought in my head. And most of us see something scary, and like, oh, there's a ghost, turn away, run away. My job is like, oh, hold still. Let me ask you some questions. That we move towards nightmares. We hunt. Like, I don't mean to hunt like to try and kill, but we seek out in the same way that bird watchers maybe seek out nightmares and disturbing things. For me, it's often. It comes in from different angles, different stories, but I think my favorite thing is when I'm struck by the uncanny. Joe Hill, who wrote Stephen King's son, he talked about Nosferatu, his book that became a series. He said, I just thought about a candy cane in July, and it sort of birthed this whole thing. Like, that doesn't belong there. There's nothing scary about July, there's nothing scary about a candy cane. It's the uncanniness of those two together. And I find that the uncanniness of an image that haunts me, and I don't even know why, can be a really good entry into a narrative.
Very nice. So flipping back over to Paranormal. So you guys go to a ton of locations. You've been probably, quite a few. And so out of all of those locations, what was the one that gave you the most heebie-jeebies?
There's 2. I'm just trying to pick one. The thing about the show too, I don't really go to a lot of the darker, like in paranormal shows you'll see abandoned state hospitals or things like that, or prisons. Most of mine is I like to do like a little bit of uncanniness as well as I like to find like a cupcake bakery that's haunted, or a tattoo parlor, a coffee bar, things that aren't like your average like spooky place, and then really dive in and you find out that they have really in-depth, crazy experiences there that are like 8 people at one cafe had seen an apparition like full body, and they all described it in the same way. I'm like, that's incredible. So I kind of go for that, but so a lot of my stuff isn't super scary, it's more just intriguing. But I think I'm trying to get between the two. There's the tavern on 12th and Lamar that I don't like because the spirit. I didn't know what was happening because I don't have experiences. The thing I had at 11, when I was 11, that's one time I've not had experiences since. But doing the show at the tavern, there was a male presence that was not sighted at the tavern, wasn't part of the lore, but my psychic Sarah saw him. Turns out he was there's a legend that a person, trigger warning, raped and murdered a child. Stuffed her in the wall. They have her shoes now up on the wall at the tavern.
Yeah.
Yes, and the rumor is that the girl is still haunts the place, but there's never rumors of the male, but my psychic went without knowledge of this place, and she just goes, there's a male that's kind of suspicious here. And he's like watching us carefully. And then she saw the little girl and started talking to her, and then the little girl would run away terrified of this male. We found out who this male was through a lot of research because Sarah drew him out and got names. And I ended up finding out who might have murdered this child, which is unsolved.
Oh, jeez.
And at night, while I was doing that research and I found his photograph, I laid down for bed and I just heard up in my ear just Stephen, like that. And it was like, I was like, what? And I called Sarah. She's like, I think he's catching on that you're catching on. He's going to keep following you until we get this taken care of. And to this day, I can't go to the tavern. Sarah won't let me. He shows her images of me hanging disemboweled and like things like that. He's super hateful because I apparently might have discovered who he was. That's one scary. And then I did a double homicide. Since our show became popular, there was a really brutal double homicide that occurred in a town outside of Austin. And in the show, I don't disclose where it was because it was an open case, really fresh open case, and they hadn't found the murderer. And the new homeowners moved in, didn't know the detail in which the murder had happened, and they were seeing the deceased in their house. And they called us. Talk about that one scared me the most because I mean they took me to where all the incidents happened, and there was still like signs of the murder in the rooms. And then he's like, yeah, I sleep here. And I'm like, how do you sleep here, man? Like, him and his girlfriend got this place. But on top of that, it was like the nerves of, like, I started to uncover things. And there was also a rumor that it was a police cover-up. That's why they didn't catch the person. And so then I got a call telling me to back off from the police. Then a family member called me and said, I'm actually concerned for your safety. Can you stop investigating this case? So I was just like, I don't know what to do. Like, I was super terrified. It was a true crime case mixed with paranormal. And I was terrified sitting on my back patio sometimes because I would, like, see a car stop on my street and just stare. And I'm like, what is it? Like, how big is this, like, cover-up? You know what I mean? Like, what am I getting myself into? And so that was more scary, not on the paranormal sense, but on, like, my life being, like, threatened. There's a lot to that story. That's called the Murder House series, if you ever want to hear that one. That one scared me. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Having a paranormal entity threaten your life and to people warning you off.
Yeah.
That's
it's scary. Yeah. Just another day on our paranormal shows.
It's a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how about you?
Well, so I'm kind of the opposite of Steven. I'm like, give me the old abandoned hospitals. I love them. The spookier, the better. Let me know if you want to go to your town. It's next Friday.
I know. You keep going.
Yeah. So we're going to Yorktown Memorial Hospital on Friday. So I think that one's probably going to take the cake for scariest when we go. I'm honestly a little nervous, which I'm like that person. I don't really get scared, to be honest. I'm like, amazing, it's creepy, there's murders, let's go. But I think that one's going to take the cake. But In terms of ones that we've done so far, I think one that, I don't know that I would say scary, but we got a lot of activity there, and we haven't released this investigation yet, so spoiler alerts for everyone, but on 6th Street, is everybody familiar with like the Happy Chicks building on 6th Street, like right next to Voodoo Donuts? So right in the back of Happy Chicks, there's a little like speakeasy. It's called Eden now, but anyway, it's, you know, true crime, all the true crime paranormal stuff. So back in the 20s, there was somebody that worked there, committed suicide, but it's really interesting because cover-ups, the newspaper articles, like there's one newspaper article that says that he got into a car accident by hitting a parked car. There's another newspaper article that says he got into a car accident, even lists a lady's name, lists like the intersection. We looked up the city directory, the intersection, like the roads don't even exist. Then there's another, his death certificate actually is saying that he died from drinking Lysol. So we're trying to piece all of this together and, you know, doing all of this research. And obviously it happened in the 20s, so like we can only find so much. But anyway, so we're piecing things together. We don't really know exactly what's going on. And, you know, with the skeptics, whatever, I'm like, at this point, I don't necessarily want to use like my abilities because then it's kind of a he said, she said, whatever, you know, believe me or not. So we're like, we're going to do a seance. Let's do that. So we do a seance, we get a Ouija board, and we're in the building and we open up the circle, right? And so as soon as we did this, it was probably one of the most wild experiences I've ever had. Like activity just started going. We started hearing noises, we started hearing footsteps, and nobody else was in the building. It was just us. And so we're hearing footsteps, and you know, it's a bar, so they have the glasses hanging. The glasses start like clinking with each other, and the AC wasn't on or anything. We did our whole, you know, hey, let's make sure everything's off, everything's good, we're gonna do the sweep, nobody's in here, blah, 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 right? And it was just wild. So we believe from the information that we ended up getting from the seance, we were able to finally figure out what actually happened there. But yeah, it was just insane, all of the activity that started happening as soon as we opened it up. So that was super fun.
Okay. Oh. Lots of activity is always fun.
With you, I need the comedy now.
Yeah. Well, and so now we're transitioning over back to horror. And Aaron, this is a question for you. Can you tell us more about Blood Oath that you mentioned earlier and how that came to fruition?
Yeah, I mean, so we just kept running into, like, after I made a couple films and started, you know, kind of figuring out the industry a little bit. Not that you're going to figure it out, it's constantly changing, evolving. And I would run into different filmmakers who were very talented and for one reason or another couldn't get their movie either made, or they had made a movie and they couldn't get it seen. They didn't know how to get it in front of like distributors or sales agents or different folks. And I just kept saying, God, if I had only known you a year prior or 6 months ago or anything, that just kept popping up. And then I kept seeing, you know, in particular, a few folks that, like, why are you struggling to get this movie made? Like, there's no reason why this should be hard. Like, all these elements are here. You've got this, you've got this, you've got this. Like, I think these things exist for a reason. And so we went and, you know, rather than just kind of be, because I think consultant can be like a scary word, I think we just grabbed experts, and then myself, in different areas that were kind of, so we have, you know, a sales agent that deals with international sales in the UK, and we have one of my producing partners, Ashley Sneed, and she focuses on budgets and, you know, every line producing and, you know, tax rebates and incentives and all that. And then we have a casting director so that we can have access to cast, and then we have, you know, multiple distribution folks who are with, like Logan Taylor, who's here in Austin, and she now works with Screen Media and Screen Gems. So like we have her, we have Brandon Hill, who's a part of Cinedigm, and then Screenbox and things like that. And then I have, like, you know, essentially a first look deal with Shudder in a way. So that's I guess it's recorded. It's not like I say, essentially like I have a very quick in with Shudder to get some things done. So we make a lot of movies together. So we put all that together, and we are, you know, wherever you're at in the process, we have something that can help So the idea is, and then we wanted to make it public, so that anybody can, submit. Anybody can reach out to us. There's no barrier to entry. And then we're looking for different voices. We're looking for, we really try to put an emphasis on, if we can, helping some female filmmakers as well as, people of color and just underrepresented, filmmakers. So that's what we're really focusing on right now. We've got a couple movies that have just got, they were where they were at and had a couple filmmakers attached and kind of helped them finish. But we have 3 or 4 that are in the works right now. You can go to jointheblood.com and submit. And we all look at them and we discuss them, monthly.
Jointheblood.com?
Jointheblood.com. Yep. Yeah.
That sounds so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's good. Yeah, we're proud of it. And, and we've got some fun movies. We've already helped put together 3 or 4 films. So, yeah.
That's very great. And I like that. Well, because most of the people that I've met, they're always like, oh, I have this idea for a film, or oh, I started this film project, but I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So that is excellent to hear. That is very cool advice.
Yeah, and there are some, as in every industry, there are some unscrupulous folks. And so the idea was for us to kind of say, like, here are the people I trust. Let's just pull them away and we all exist so that if you trust me, you can trust these folks that I'm saying this is.
That's in every industry.
Yeah.
And so, but it's also nice to finally get like-minded people together, and you're able to do something like that. That is really cool.